Good morning, friends. What city are you watching from today? Tell us in the comments and enjoy the story. Don't tell me you're jealous, I said, and Ethan nearly crushed his soda can trying to pretend he wasn't. That should have been my first clue. My name is Noah, and Ethan had been my best friend long enough that I could usually read his face before he opened his mouth. I knew his annoyed face, his tired face, his I forgot an assignment, and I'm about to make it everyone's problem face. This one was new. We were standing outside a little burger place near campus on a warm Friday night, and Caleb had just kissed my cheek before heading toward his car. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that should have caused Ethan to stare after him like Caleb had personally offended the concept of friendship. I'm not jealous, Ethan said. He finally looked down at the dented aluminum can in his hand and loosened his grip. You're murdering a perfectly innocent soda. It slipped. In your fist? Gravity is complicated. I laughed, mostly because that was easier than admitting how strange his reaction made me feel. Ethan was straight. Not straight ? Not maybe straight. Straight. I had heard enough stories about girls he liked, girls he dated, and one unforgettable 20-minute speech about why a girl named Madison had the most incredible eyes on earth to accept that fact years ago. I had also spent an embarrassing amount of time teaching my own heart the same lesson. Ethan was my best friend. That was all. So, when Caleb asked me out 3 weeks earlier, I said yes. Caleb was confident, funny, and very clear about liking me, which was refreshing after years of secretly wanting someone who had no idea there was anything to want. Tonight had been our third date, and Ethan had somehow appeared at the burger place. 15 minutes before we finished. He claimed he had been nearby. Ethan lived almost 4 miles away. Apparently, nearby had become a flexible concept. So, Ethan said, trying for casual and missing by several miles. You like him? I shoved my hands into my jacket pockets. I've gone out with him 3 times. That's usually a clue. Ethan looked toward the parking lot again. Caleb was leaning against his car now, checking his phone. He seems. Ethan paused. What? I don't know. That's a strong review. I'm just saying you barely know him. I stared at Ethan. That is generally how dating works. You go out with someone so you can know them better. His jaw tightened for half a second. Tiny movement. Most people would have missed it. I didn't. I never missed much with Ethan. That was the problem. Why do you care so much? I asked. Because I'm your best friend. Right. I smiled even though something inside me had started waking up in a way I did not appreciate. So definitely not jealous. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. Across the lot, Caleb looked up from his phone. His eyes moved from me to Ethan, and then he smiled. Not the easy smile he used on dates. Something smaller, sharper, like he had just confirmed a theory. Ethan saw it too. What was that? He asked. What was what? That look. I glanced back at Caleb, but he was already getting into his car. You are being weird tonight. Ethan looked at me then, really looked at me, and for one confusing second the irritation disappeared. Something else took its place. Something nervous, almost scared. Then he shoved both hands into his hoodie pockets. Forget it. He started walking toward his truck. I followed, telling myself the tight feeling in my chest meant nothing. Ethan was straight. Caleb liked me. I was finally moving on. Everything was simple. At least that was what I believed until Ethan stopped beside his truck, looked back at the road where Caleb had disappeared, and said quietly, I just don't trust him, Noah. What I didn't know yet was that Ethan's jealousy was only half the problem. The other half was that Caleb already knew exactly how jealous Ethan was. The next morning, Ethan was already sitting at our usual table in the campus coffee shop when I walked in, which would have been normal if he had not placed my order in front of the empty chair before I arrived. You look terrible, he said. I dropped my backpack beside the chair. Good morning to you too. I mean tired. That was not better. Ethan pushed the coffee toward me. 2 creams, 1 sugar. Exactly right. Of course it was. That was Ethan. He remembered the things I wished he would forget, and forgot the things I wished mattered less. I took a sip and looked at him over the lid. Are we going to talk about last night? He immediately became fascinated by his breakfast sandwich. What about it? You practically interrogated me about Caleb. I asked 3 questions, you asked 6. You counted? I was there. Ethan leaned back. I still think something is off about him. I sighed. And I still think you have no evidence. I have instincts. You once trusted a guy who sold you a used laptop without a charger. That was different. The screen was cracked. He had a trustworthy face. I laughed despite myself, and Ethan smiled like he had accomplished something important. That was the dangerous part. He had always been able to do that. I had known Ethan since freshman year, back when we were both 18, and convinced we understood everything. We met because he borrowed a pen in an economics class and somehow never gave it back. By October, we were eating lunch together almost every day. By December, he knew my favorite movie, my coffee order, and the fact that I hated raisins with the intensity of a personal betrayal. Somewhere between late-night study sessions and Saturday grocery runs, I made the mistake of falling for him. Quietly, stupidly, completely. Then one night during sophomore year, Ethan spent 20 minutes telling me about a girl named Madison. Her eyes are unbelievable, he had said. I remember smiling and saying, you should ask her out. Then I went home and decided I was done hoping. Ethan was straight. Ethan was my best friend. Those were facts, not problems to solve. So I built rules around them. No reading into long looks. No turning late-night conversations into something they were not. No treating every thoughtful thing Ethan did like hidden proof. Most importantly, no waiting for him. Caleb was supposed to make that last rule easier. He was confident, direct, and refreshingly uncomplicated. When he liked me, he said so. When he wanted to see me, he asked. There were no years of decoding smiles, or wondering whether a hand on my shoulder meant anything. It felt smart to choose someone who was actually choosing me. My phone buzzed on the table. Caleb, dinner tomorrow? I smiled before I could stop myself. Ethan noticed. Him, yes, you smiled fast. That is usually what happens when someone sends a nice message. Ethan looked down at his coffee. Are you seeing him tomorrow? Probably. His fingers tapped once against the cup. We usually watch the game on Sundays. We can watch next week. Ethan nodded like that answer did not bother him at all. Then he said, you never cancel Sundays. I looked at him. I am not canceling you. I am going on a date. I know. His voice was quieter now. That is what I meant. For one strange second, neither of us spoke. Then my phone buzzed again, and when I looked down, Ethan looked away. By Sunday afternoon, I was beginning to suspect Ethan had developed a new hobby, and unfortunately, that hobby was appearing wherever Caleb and I happened to be. I noticed it first outside the student center. Caleb and I were sitting at one of the metal tables near the fountain, sharing fries because Caleb had ordered too many, and I had apparently forgotten how to say no to free food. Then Ethan walked across the courtyard carrying a gym bag. He slowed when he saw us. Caleb noticed too. Your friend is here, he said. He goes here. Caleb looked at me. That was not what I meant. Ethan reached our table and stopped beside the empty chair. Hey. I looked at the gym bag. You have practice on the other side of campus. Finished early. Caleb smiled. Convenient. Ethan looked at him. Very. Then he sat down. Not beside me. Not across from me. Directly between us, I stared at him. Seriously? Ethan opened one of the fries like he had been invited. What? You have your own food. Your fries look better. Caleb leaned back in his chair, amused. Does he always do this? No, I said. Ethan said sometimes. I turned to him. Name one time. He took another fry. This time. Caleb laughed, and Ethan looked like he regretted giving him the satisfaction. That should have been funny. Instead, something warm and dangerous stirred in my chest. I pushed it down. Ethan was being territorial about his best friend. That was all. Later that night, Caleb walked me back toward my apartment building. He told me a ridiculous story about getting locked out of his freshman dorm in pajama pants, and I was still laughing when my phone buzzed. Ethan, home yet? I stopped walking. Caleb glanced at my screen. Let me guess. Do not start. I did not say anything. Your face did. Caleb smiled. Your best friend checks whether you get home from dates? I typed back almost. Then I shoved my phone into my pocket. He checks on everyone. Caleb raised an eyebrow. Does he? I hated that question because I did not know the answer. The next day, Ethan showed up outside my afternoon class, holding 2 iced coffees. I stared at him. What are you doing here? He handed me one. You said you had class until 3. Yes, but why are you here? I was nearby. I looked across the quad toward his engineering building. It was almost half a mile away. Your definition of nearby is becoming suspicious. Ethan ignored that. Are you seeing Caleb tonight? No. His shoulders relaxed so quickly I almost laughed. Why? I asked. No reason. That looked like a reason. What did? Your entire body. Ethan took a drink and started walking. I followed him. You know, Caleb thinks you are jealous. Ethan nearly missed a step. Caleb talks too much. That is not a denial. I do not need to deny something ridiculous. Then say it. Ethan stopped. I stopped too. Students moved around us toward the library and dining hall, but for a second it felt strangely quiet. Say what? He asked. Say you are not jealous. His eyes held mine. 1 second. 2, then he looked away. I do not like him. That is not what I asked. Ethan exhaled. He does not know you. Neither did you when we met. His jaw tightened again. That was different. Why? Ethan looked at me, like the answer was sitting somewhere behind my face. Then his phone buzzed, breaking the moment. He checked it too quickly. I have to go. I watched him walk away and told myself I was annoyed. The problem was, I was not only annoyed. For the first time in years, I was starting to wonder whether I had been wrong to stop hoping. The first real crack in Caleb showed up 2 days later, and at first it was small enough that I almost ignored it. We were sitting outside the campus library with iced tea between us when he said, "You always do that when you are nervous." I looked at him. Do what? Caleb tapped 2 fingers against the table. You rub your thumb against the side of your index finger. My hand stopped immediately. That was weird because I did do that. Ethan noticed it years ago during finals week and had started calling it my invisible panic button. I had never mentioned it to Caleb. How do you know that? I asked. Caleb blinked once. I pay attention. You have known me for less than a month. He smiled. Maybe I am observant. I wanted to accept that answer. I almost did. Then he added, you also hate being called no-no. My stomach tightened. Only 3 people had ever called me that, and 2 were family. Ethan was the 3rd, mostly because he knew I hated it. I stared at Caleb. Who told you that? His smile faded slightly. You did? No, I did not. Caleb picked up his drink. Then maybe Ethan did. Why would Ethan talk to you about me? I do not know, Noah. Maybe because he talks about you more than you realize. That should have distracted me. Instead, it made the question worse. Caleb changed the subject so quickly, I almost respected the effort. 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, smiled, typed something, then glanced at me. What? I asked. Nothing. That looked like something. He turned the phone face down. Group chat. Funny? Sometimes. I tried to let it go. Then, when we walked toward the student center, 3 guys near the steps looked at Caleb, then at me, and one of them laughed under his breath. Caleb noticed. Ignore them. I stopped. Do I know them? No. Do they know me? Caleb exhaled. You are overthinking this. That sentence irritated me immediately. I asked a simple question. Before he could answer, Ethan appeared from the opposite walkway carrying a backpack. His eyes moved from me to Caleb, then to the group near the steps. Everything okay? He asked. Caleb smiled. Perfect. Ethan looked at me. I crossed my arms. Do not. Do not what? Give me the look. What look? The one where you think you were right. Ethan looked at Caleb. I did not say anything. You never have to. Caleb laughed once. This is getting old. Ethan turned toward him. Then stop making it weird. I stepped between the conversation before it became more uncomfortable. Both of you, enough. Ethan looked at me. No, I am serious. So am I. Something is off. Or maybe you want something to be off. Ethan went still. Caleb glanced between us. I should have stopped there. I did not. You do not like him because you are jealous. Ethan looked at me for a long second, and when he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than I expected. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. For a second, I honestly forgot Caleb was standing there. Ethan looked almost as surprised by his own answer as I was. Caleb broke the silence first. Well, that is interesting. Ethan glanced at him. Do not make this about you. Caleb gave a short laugh. You are literally arguing about me. I stepped between them again. Enough, both of you. Ethan looked at me, and the confidence he usually carried was gone. Noah, I do not know what you want me to say. Start with why. Why what? Why you care who I date. Why you keep showing up. Why you look relieved every time I say I am not seeing him. Caleb crossed his arms. I would also enjoy this explanation, I turned. Caleb, please. He lifted both hands. Fine, I am going. He looked at Ethan before leaving. Good luck figuring that out. Ethan waited until Caleb was 20 feet away before saying, I hate when he does that. Does what? Acts like he knows something. I stared at him. Maybe he does. Ethan went quiet. We started walking toward the parking lot because apparently moving was easier than standing still. While my best friend rearranged my entire understanding of reality. You said maybe, I reminded him. I know what I said. That is not an answer, I know. You are really committed to being unhelpful today. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. I do not know how to explain it. Try badly. He actually smiled at that, but it disappeared fast. When Caleb touches your arm, I notice. My chest tightened. Ethan kept looking ahead. When you smile at your phone, I wonder if it is him. When you cancel something with me to see him, I get angry, and then I get angry at myself because I have no right to be angry. I stopped walking. Ethan took 2 more steps before turning back. That sounds a lot like jealousy. I know. And you are straight. His face changed slightly. I know what I have always called myself. That answer landed harder than I expected. Ethan. I am not saying I suddenly understand everything. He stepped closer, but still left space between us. I am saying something about this is not fitting the way it used to. I swallowed. Something about Caleb? Ethan looked directly at me. Something about you. My heart immediately tried to become the least reliable organ in my body. I forced myself to stay calm. You do not get to say that because someone else finally likes me. I know. I am not an experiment. I know. Then what exactly do you want? Ethan opened his mouth, but Caleb called my name from near the curb. He had come back for the jacket he left on the bench. Ethan stepped away like the moment had burned him. Caleb picked up the jacket and looked between us. Everything good? I said, not really. Ethan said, we are fine. I turned to him. No, we are not. For the first time, Ethan did not argue. He only looked at me and said quietly, I need time to figure out what I am trying to tell you. I should have felt hopeful. Instead, I thought about Caleb knowing my private habits. The strange group chat, and the guys laughing near the student center. So I looked at Ethan and said, figure it out. But I am not putting my life on hold while you do. The next 3 days were strangely quiet. Ethan gave me space, which was exactly what I had asked for, and somehow still annoyed me. He stopped appearing outside my classes. He did not ask about Caleb. He did not send me late-night messages that made me stare at my phone longer than necessary. Meanwhile, Caleb became almost too attentive. You okay? He asked, when we met at the student union Friday afternoon. You have asked me that 4 times. Maybe you look 4 times more stressed. That does not sound medically accurate. He smiled, but his phone buzzed before he could answer. Caleb checked it and turned the screen away too quickly. I noticed. I wished I had not. Group chat again? I asked. His smile tightened. You really hate that thing. I hate not knowing why people in it seem to know me. Caleb leaned back. Noah, you are making this bigger than it is. There it was again. The same sentence in a different jacket. I looked at him. Then make it smaller. Show me. His expression changed. Show you what? The chat. Caleb laughed once. Seriously? Yes. You want to go through my phone? No. I want you to stop acting like I am imagining things. He stood. I am getting coffee. Then he walked away with his phone in his hand. That should have been enough for me to leave. Instead, I stayed. 2 minutes later, one of the guys from outside the student center walked past my table. He slowed, looked at me then, at Caleb across the room. "You are Noah, right?" I hesitated. "Yeah." He looked uncomfortable. "You should probably see something." My stomach dropped. He pulled out his phone and opened a group chat. I did not touch it. I did not need to. The messages were right there. Caleb had posted details about our dates. Things I had said. Places we went. Jokes I thought were private. Then, I saw the message that made everything else disappear. "Bet Ethan loses it if I make Noah fall for me first." I read it twice. The guy beside me said quietly, "I thought it was stupid at first." Then it stopped being funny. Caleb came back carrying coffee and froze when he saw us. "What are you doing?" I looked up at him. "You tell me." His face changed. "No, I can explain." "Great, start with the bet." Caleb set the coffee down. "It was not serious. You wrote it. Before I actually got to know you. And after you got to know me, you kept posting." He had no answer for that. My hands were shaking, so I pressed them flat against the table. Invisible panic button. Ethan would have noticed. Caleb had noticed too. Because apparently Caleb had been studying me for an audience. "Were the dates real?" I asked. Caleb looked away. "Some of it became real." I almost laughed. "That might be the worst answer you could have picked." He lowered his voice. "I did not mean to hurt you. You meant to win something." The guy with the phone quietly sent me screenshots after I asked. Dates, names, messages. Enough. Caleb watched me save them. "What are you doing?" I put my phone away. "Not what you expect." He looked nervous for the first time. "Noah." I stood. "Do not worry. I am not going to make a scene." I walked out of the student union before he could stop me. Outside, the late afternoon air felt colder than it should have. My phone was already in my hand before I admitted who I wanted to call. Ethan answered on the second ring. "Noah?" I closed my eyes. "You were right about Caleb." Silence. Then his voice changed. "Where are you?" "Outside the student union." "I am coming." "Ethan, do not save me." Another pause. "Okay." I looked back through the glass doors and saw Caleb watching me from inside. "Help me finish this." By the time Ethan reached the student union, I had already decided I was not going to confront Caleb again until I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Ethan found me sitting on the low brick wall outside, staring at the screenshots on my phone. He stopped a few feet away. "Can I sit?" "You are asking now?" "You told me not to save you." "I am trying very hard not to accidentally become helpful." I almost smiled. "Sit." He dropped beside me, leaving enough space that our shoulders did not touch. I handed him the phone. Ethan read silently. His jaw tightened at the message about making me fall for Caleb first. "That is why he knew things," I said. "He was collecting them." Ethan kept scrolling. "And sharing them." Apparently my terrible fries opinions were public information. Ethan looked at me. "Noah, I know. Humor is a defense mechanism. Let me have this one." He handed the phone back. "What do you want to do?" That question mattered more than he probably knew. Not what should we do. Not what am I going to do to Caleb. What do you want to do? I opened another screenshot. There is a student leadership event Monday night. Caleb is helping run it. Ethan nodded slowly. He mentioned it once. He also told the group chat. He wanted to make some kind of joke about me there. Ethan looked at me sharply. "What kind?" The screenshot does not say. Just that everyone should wait for the surprise. Ethan exhaled. "So you still plan to go?" "Absolutely." That answer worries me. Good. I showed him the messages again. If Caleb thinks I know everything, he changes the plan. If he thinks I know nothing, he keeps talking. Ethan understood immediately. You want him comfortable. I want him careless. On Saturday, I answered Caleb's apology message with 4 words. "We should talk Monday." He replied almost instantly. "I am glad. I can explain everything." I showed Ethan. He really likes the word explain, Ethan said. It saves him from using apologize. We spent Sunday organizing the screenshots by date. Caleb had posted before our first date, after our second, and even after he claimed his feelings had become real. There were names attached, times, enough context that nobody could pretend the screenshots were random. Ethan pointed at one message. This guy, Marcus, is on the event committee. I know. Are you sending it to him? Not yet. Ethan leaned back on my couch. You are terrifying when organized. Thank you. That was not entirely a compliment. Monday afternoon, Caleb approached me outside the student center like nothing had happened. Can we talk before tonight? He asked. I gave him the calmest smile I could manage. After the event, his shoulders relaxed. That was exactly what I needed. So you are still coming? Would not miss it. Caleb smiled, relieved. Then he walked away, already pulling out his phone. Ethan stepped out from behind the nearby column after Caleb disappeared. He bought it. Of course he did. I sent the screenshots to Marcus and the student conduct office, along with a short explanation and the name of the student who had shown me the chat. Ethan watched me hit send. What happens now? I put my phone away. Now Caleb gets exactly what he wanted. Ethan frowned. An audience? I looked toward the student center doors. Yes. Just not for the story he planned to tell. Monday night, the student leadership event was already crowded. When Ethan and I walked into the student center ballroom, Caleb stood near the front with a microphone in one hand, smiling like he owned the room. He saw me almost immediately. His expression relaxed. You came, he said when I got close enough. I said I would. Ethan stopped a few feet behind me. Caleb glanced at him. And you brought backup. I shook my head. No, I brought a friend. Ethan did not correct me. That mattered more than I wanted it to. Caleb lowered his voice. Can we talk after this? Sure. He smiled again, apparently convinced everything was under control. Then Marcus, one of the event committee members, walked over and quietly asked Caleb to step aside. Caleb frowned. Right now? Marcus nodded. Right now. For the first time that night, Caleb looked uncertain. He followed Marcus toward a side table, where two faculty advisors were waiting. Ethan leaned closer to me. Did you know they would do that before the event started? No. You looked disappointed. I wanted him to enjoy his confidence longer. Ethan almost laughed. Across the room, Caleb opened his phone and started explaining something quickly. One advisor showed him a printed page. His face changed. Then he looked directly at me. I did not look away. 10 minutes later, Marcus walked to the microphone instead of Caleb. Small schedule change, he announced. Caleb will no longer be assisting with tonight's program. A murmur moved through the room. Caleb stood near the wall, pale and angry, but nobody was laughing with him now. One of the guys from the group chat quietly left his side. Then another. Marcus continued the event without explaining everything publicly, which I respected. I did not need humiliation. I needed consequences. During the break, Caleb found me near the refreshment table. You sent them the screenshots. Yes. You could have talked to me first. I stared at him. I did. Noah, they removed me from the committee. Because of what you did, not because I showed them. His mouth tightened. Student conduct wants to meet with me tomorrow. Then I guess you have more explaining to do. You are enjoying this. I thought about that. No, I am enjoying not being the punchline. Caleb looked past me toward Ethan. Was this his idea? Ethan started to answer, but I lifted a hand. Mine. Caleb looked back at me. So this is revenge? No. Revenge would have been embarrassing you the way you planned to embarrass me. I gave the truth to the people responsible for the event. What happened after that was your consequence. Caleb had nothing to say. That was new. By the end of the night, Marcus told me Caleb had been formally removed from the leadership committee while student conduct reviewed the messages. The group chat had already started falling apart because several members realized Caleb had been making jokes about them too. His audience disappeared almost as quickly as his confidence had. Outside the student center, Ethan walked beside me toward the parking lot. You okay? He asked. I exhaled. Ask me tomorrow. Fair. I looked back through the glass doors. Caleb stood alone near the lobby, talking to one of the advisors. For weeks, he had treated my life like a story he controlled. Tonight, I took it back. Then I turned toward Ethan and realized he was watching me with an expression I had not seen before. Not jealousy, not confusion, something steadier. What? I asked. Ethan shook his head. Nothing. I narrowed my eyes. You are terrible at nothing. He smiled slightly. Then maybe I should finally tell you the truth. Then tell me. Ethan stopped walking. The parking lot was quiet except for a car pulling onto the road behind us, and the low hum of the student center lights. He shoved his hands into his hoodie pockets, looked down for a second, then back at me. I kept telling myself I was angry because Caleb was taking my best friend away. I waited. That explanation worked for about a week, he continued. Then I realized I did not care when you spent time with anyone else. I cared when you spent time with him. My heart started doing inconvenient things again. Because you did not trust him? Ethan shook his head. Before I knew there was anything wrong with him. That silenced me. Ethan took a slow breath. I hated watching him sit next to you. I hated seeing his name on your phone. When you canceled Sundays, I was not upset about the game. I figured that part out. I know. You were annoyingly observant. I almost smiled. Keep going. Ethan looked nervous now, but he did not look away. I thought I was afraid of losing my best friend. Then I imagined you calling someone else your boyfriend, and that felt different. My chest tightened. Different how? Like I did not only want my place in your life back. I wanted his place. For a moment, every excuse I had used for Ethan over the past few weeks disappeared. You have spent years telling me you are straight. I know. So what changed? Ethan shook his head slowly. I do not think one night changed me. I think I finally stopped using one word as an answer to every question. He stepped a little closer but left room between us. I know I dated girls. I know those feelings were real. I am not pretending my entire past was fake. His voice softened. But I also know I want you in a way I have never wanted a best friend. I looked at him carefully. That still does not make me your test run. You are not. And I am not going to wait while you decide whether this is real. I am not asking you to. Ethan pulled one hand from his pocket and held it out between us, palm open. I am asking for one date. I stared at his hand. One, public place, your choice. I will even let you pick the restaurant. Generous. I am growing as a person. I laughed, and the tension in his shoulders finally eased. Then I looked at his hand again. And if tomorrow you panic, then I tell you the truth. I do not disappear. I do not make you feel like you did something wrong. That answer mattered. More than some dramatic promise would have. I put my hand in his. Ethan looked down at our hands like he was trying not to smile too hard. Do not make this weird, I said. No, I have spent 3 weeks making everything weird. Fair point. We started walking again, still holding hands. It felt strangely ordinary for something I had once convinced myself would never happen. A week later, student conduct confirmed. Caleb would not return to the leadership committee that semester. Several people from the group chat apologized to me, and Marcus told me the event committee had adopted stricter privacy rules for future programs. Caleb sent one final apology. I read it once, then deleted it. I did not need another explanation. Friday night, Ethan met me outside the same burger place where this mess had started. He looked at me and smiled. So this counts as a date? That depends. On what? I opened the door. Whether you survive dinner without stealing my fries. Ethan followed me inside. No promises. I rolled my eyes, but I was smiling. For years, I thought moving on meant learning how to stop wanting Ethan. I had been wrong. Moving on meant refusing to wait for someone who would not choose me. Ethan finally did, and this time, I chose him back. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends who might enjoy it too. We would love to know where you are watching from. Tell us your city and country in the comments. More heartfelt and unforgettable LGBTQ stories are already waiting for you. See you in the next one.